1 week or just over a week before Chord Festival. We're here back with the main man who listeners of this podcast might remember from last summer. We was a first time guest at the time. Rishi and I didn't know each other then, and that feels like about 10 years ago to me. How's it going? How are you feeling ahead of the madness that's going to happen next week?
How am I feel? My New Year's resolution is to always respond honestly whenever somebody asks me, "Oh, how are you doing?" And I would say I'm feeling, I'm feeling.
Okay. Okay, yeah. I mean that's technically true. Whatever one may make of that.
It's there's just, and you guys being part of it much more. I mean, seeing a lot of it, to be honest with you. It's just there's just you're trying to think of everything from ticketing issues and customer service to heat and weather and how do you prepare and I just got word like a couple hours ago that like one of the main roads go one of the two main areas to get in, they're closing the road for construction starting on Thursday of next week. So I'm thinking, how do we get this message out? Can I contact the city who I've contact? So this stuff, your mind no longer can focus on one thing and do it well. It's you're looking at everything from 1,000 foot and hoping that all of the micro detail for the last year has worked.
You're on your 10th year now, so Folklore Festival 10. How different is planning now to how it was for like, one, two, three, those really early days? Like, is it pretty similar or has it kind of changed and developed and do you approach it a lot differently these days?
Yeah, it's really different. I mean, the first 5 years were in a 1,000 person club that had the stage and had the sound and had the security and had the alcohol permits, and so it was more getting the bands and selling tickets, and you know that was it. Hospitality and stuff like that for bands, and then now it's this year it's just even more because it's a new venue. It's not like a plug and play, so to speak, where we've done, we were at a place called Wild Things Park for 3 years. It was great there. Wanted to move it back to Pittsburgh. So now there's all these new things. So it's much, much different. It's more operational now than it is even tickets and selling and stuff like that. It's much more making sure that things are there that people need, and security's in place and the venue's on board. So it's more operational now than it was early on when it was just like move tickets, move tickets, move tickets.
So I guess what can people expect this year then? And in addition to obviously the great lineup we've got over the 2 days, what else can people expect from the festival and the site when they're there?
So the site is I mean it's there's nothing there, right? I mean, like there's no water, there's no electricity, there's very little infrastructure. I mean, that speaks to larger issues that are happening here and in the UK about concert venues and Live Nation and so on and so, and like
Sure.
how to navigate through that, right? But outside of that political discussion, they can expect a lot. The site is going to be packed. It's going to be compact. There's essentially a one of the oldest steel mills in Pennsylvania, in Western Pennsylvania, in the United States. In the 80s closed down, or in the 70s closed down, and by 1980 and into the early 90s, it started. Pittsburgh was really changing during that time. Not that this is a history lesson in Pittsburgh. I know your other guests, you quiz them on Pittsburgh. I am the
Yes.
master of Pittsburgh history. But the steel mill closed, and it became a preserved space through a nonprofit who still run it to this day, called Rivers of Steel. So there are
Yeah.
things you can't do on the site as a result of that, but they're great to work with, and we are compacting everything. We've got 10, 12 food trucks that are mostly local, some regional. We've got up to 30 vendors on site that, some that are in our scene, like Smart Punk is going to be there, who are a big supporter and big sponsor of the festival, who
Yeah.
we love, and I know you guys know very well. Um, we've got clothing brands like Born Dead. We've got local craft. We've got artists. We've got um, lots of stuff. Then we've got our deluxe VIP there, which is a new thing, which we'll see how it goes. And we actually invested in a lot of we'll call it like four chord art this year. So we have privacy fence that is really cool. It's actually sitting in my office right now, rolled up. But they're like 8 foot by 7 foot panels that are going to go on privacy fence surrounding the deluxe VIP that is a homage to every year. So it's got
Oh, cool.
pictures and lineup from first year, second year, all the way until this year. And we've got these really cool custom inflatables that I think are really awesome. That one of them is like a greetings card that's like 10 feet high and 10 feet wide. That is like a card that you would send from vacation that says greetings from Four Chord, dear mom and dad, don't call, I'm having the time of my life from, and it's just like a middle finger, so stuff like that we tried to really incorporate to make it feel more festival like, because we're now, we're at the point where I think we can do that. So the consumer can expect to, I hope, I'm not going to say the W word, but I hope it's hot and sunny and just fucking, Warped Tour, 2003 style here in the United States. There's going to be a lot of stuff on site for them, a lot of activations that they can do outside of the music. That was a long answer.
No, we like long answers. And also, I mean, I suppose you'll get some people coming from out of town for this, and if they may not have time outside of the festival, but if they did, I guess we've been asking a lot to the audience, for particularly for us coming from the UK, having never been to Pittsburgh before, what recommendations that listeners would have for us to do in Pittsburgh. But what about from the main man here? I've probably asked you before, but like now that we're on record, like if you were going to recommend like 2, maybe 3 things for concert goers, should they have the time to do?
Let's exclude Primanti's, because that's definitely on our radar. Everyone's talked about that already, which we are going to. So let's that we've got that covered. So what else?
I'm really interested to see what you guys think about Primanti's. I love Primanti's, so let me just say I love Primanti's. You'll get it once you have it. So I'm big on, obviously you're coming from the UK, somebody's coming from out of state. It's a little different, and I wish that we had time. I wish normally when my friends come in from like out of state or out of town, like I like to spend a day and like bring them like to the places. So I wish that I would have time to do that with you all. I think that we would have a great time. And maybe I could sneak out for a little bit and we could do something. But so if somebody's coming from Pittsburgh, the first thing which I've mentioned to you guys, kind of your first impression, if you're flying into Pittsburgh and you're leaving the Pittsburgh airport, it's about a 35-minute drive from the airport to downtown Pittsburgh. And right before you get to the city itself, there's a tunnel. It's called the Fort Pitt Tunnel. And again, there's a long history with Fort Pitt and so on and so forth. And you go through this tunnel, and it's basically trees, it's highway, it's like normal shit that you would normally, expect on a highway. So my recommendation to you guys and anybody that's listening that's flying into Pittsburgh and going through the Fort Pitt tunnels, put your favorite song on, right? Or like a song from a band on the festival, right when you start going through that tunnel. And then when you break through the tunnel, it's breathtaking. Your breath will be taken away. That's the first thing that I would say you should do. Even if you're driving, I would drive through the Fort Pitt tunnels and see that entrance, and that it's one of the best first impressions, I think, of any city we've ever toured in or been in or anywhere. So that's the first thing I would say, is drive through the Fort Pitt tunnels towards Pittsburgh. The second thing I would say, I want to say 3 things. One is, and this isn't even a plug for our pre-show, but I have a really good friend in Pittsburgh who we basically are kind of like the same person, but we're 2 sides of the same coin. He comes from like the hardcore straight edge vegan world, and I'm vegetarian since birth, into the pop punk world. And he opened a venue where we're doing our pre-show called Preserving Underground. And Preserving Underground is a multi-faceted DIY venue that has a 700 cap space where we're doing the pre-show with Red Jumpsuit Apparatus, Emo Band, 408, and Midnight Lights. I'm not plugging it, or maybe I am. Then there's a basement venue that holds 300 people. And then there's a record store that is the best record store, best independent record store maybe that exists. I mean, most record stores are independent. So I would say do that. That's about 20 minutes outside of the city. And then the last thing I would tell you to do in Pittsburgh, one of the greatest cities on the planet, other than go to strip clubs and bars or go to Primanti's, and would be to go and go to Point State Park. I don't know if anybody has brought that up to you guys. They have?
I'm not sure.
No,
Nick, do you
I've
remember
heard
reading that in the comments?
Mount Washington's been mentioned a few times, but yeah, that park hasn't.
Mount
Yeah.
Washington's beautiful. It's the view, again, another great view. Point State Park is a city park with a massive fountain, but it's at the confluence of the three rivers, which is what Pittsburgh is known for, being on the confluence of three rivers. And I know you've probably learned this, but it's at the confluence of the Monongahela and the Allegheny River meet to make the Ohio River, which then flows to the Mississippi River in the middle of the United States. So in that point, it's called Point State Park. It's right on the three rivers, and it is breathtaking. It's breathtaking. So those are the three things that I would suggest.
Okay.
Very good answer.
Yeah, you guys seem stoked.
No, should we talk a little bit about the lineup of the festival? Just curious I just want to ask about, so obviously everyone watching or listening to this is probably familiar with who's playing both days, which is a very exciting lineup. But what are some of your experience either playing with or just watching some of the bands that you've got booked this year? Like who are you most excited about seeing, when you get the opportunity, obviously, because I know you'll be busy.
Let's maybe do kind of day one and day two. Let's split it up a little bit.
So, I mean, bands that I want to see. I mean, the booking process is that's a dissertation we could write. But in terms of bands I like to see, day one, there's this band from Pittsburgh. They're called Eternal. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
No, they're so the band on Saturday that I'm really excited to see. So there's a Pittsburgh band, not technically from Pittsburgh. They're originally from Erie, PA, and Edinburgh, PA area, which is north of Pittsburgh. They're opening the show. They're called Mallory Run. They are one of my favorite Pittsburgh area-based bands. I would get there early. Get there real early, because I just mentioned there are road closures, so get there very early, please. So Mallory Run's going to be great. They're so high energy. Also on day one, I really can't wait to see Driveways, which is a band that I have recently started working with. They are awesome. They're from Boston. If you like Halloween and you like post-hardcore and pop punk, you will love this band. And then I really, really love a band from Chicago called Action Adventure.
Yep. Former guests on this show as well. Like lovely fellas.
Yeah. So there's two bands I've never seen. I might have seen once when I was young. I don't remember. But Reliant K is the band that I can't wait to see. The record is one of my top 10 favorite records of all time.
Yeah, I think that goes for everyone in this conversation right now.
Obviously we've got a bit of a schedule for interviews during the 2 days, but that is one slot that we have left free all weekend. So
because as far as we're aware, they've never been to Europe, so we've never, I've never caught them in the States, certainly never caught them over here. So we've very
never been to Europe.
I don't think so. Definitely not the UK.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's a strange one, because they obviously did well over in the States, but it was just, they were just never a thing here, and obviously never toured here.
I mean, dude, to hear them open up, dude, if they fucking open up with the one I'm waiting for from oh my God. Dude, no joke. I'm pushing you both off stage during that song. We'll get sued by somebody. I can't wait for Reliant K. I think that they are such an underrated band. So them, and then the Get Up Kids doing Something to Write Home About, or at least most of it, depending on time permitting. They're going to certainly do most of it. Those two, I've never seen the Get Up Kids. Never seen.
Oh, really?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, wow. I mean, I think I could safely speak for both of us, saying I'm sure you've seen them as well, Nick. I've definitely caught them a few times over the years.
Well, I've seen Pryor play by himself. I've seen iterations of it, and I've never seen like. I don't think I've ever seen. I actually can't believe I'm saying that out loud, because I feel like somewhere I had to have seen them, but I have not. I thought about that when we booked them. So those are the two I'm really, really stoked on. I really think a lot of the bands are good this year. It's not like there are like sometimes there are like bands on it that you're like had to put on because of packages and politics and so on and so forth. I really think the lineup's solid. Oh, and another band, day one. we might have talked about this. I think Military Gun is going to explode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone loves
they're blowing
Military
up.
Gun at the minute, so I
They're
feel like
exploding everywhere,
yeah,
right?
In
I
UK
saw
yeah,
them.
too.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Saw them at Primavera Sound in Barcelona as well, like some
Oh,
footage, and the crowd that turned out for them was insane, and they did like a 2 a.m. show and like a
Oh,
secret
you
show
saw him this
afterwards
year
as
in
well.
Barcelona.
No, I didn't see them, just saw footage
Oh, okay,
footage of
okay.
it all. So yeah, they're just kind of blowing up all over
But everyone
this
I
side of the
talked
army.
to in the UK about over the last few months about how we're going out for this festival, and they look at the lineup, doesn't matter what kind of, I guess, they're broadly in the same scene as us, but whatever they're into, everyone's like, oh, Military Gun are playing. Like, I feel like they're kind of crossing all genres, and everyone seems to be really into them. So they're kind of
Yeah,
even
it's like they're like the next
Matt.
Turnstile, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe that's a good comparison. But like Matt Pryor even was singing their praises the other day when we spoke to him. So you know,
Hmm.
I thought, yeah.
You know who they're managed? You know who they're managed by?
No, go on.
Jay-Z. No, I'm kidding. No, he's so they're on Rock. They're on Rock Nation,
Right.
which is Jay-Z's management company. So well, I don't think that
Ah,
he
okay.
Right.
personally manages them, but like they're on the
Yeah,
same. I thought it was just so interesting that like they're almost like the Beastie Boys of punk rock.
yeah. That's another good comparison, I'd say.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's I think the lineup's cool. I think the lineup's got a little bit for everybody. Um, we'll see how it goes, man. Your guess is as good as mine how it's gonna go. So
I guess worth talking about Eternal Boy as well. Obviously, your band on day one decided to release a new single in the build up to the festival as
Well,
well. All the
well, we've
things
had
you never
two.
told me.
We've had two, haven't we?
What's the second one? You're ahead of the game than me.
second one's called so we have released two songs that are going to be on our new record in July. The first one is called Version of Myself, and the second one is called All the Things You Never Told Me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we conveniently did that around this whole thing as if there's not enough shit to do.
Nice. How's the reaction been to those two?
Uh, I mean, I try to not give like boilerplate answers like, oh, this is the best shit we've ever written. This is gonna revolutionize. Because like we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're just trying to write songs that we like. And
Yeah.
it's been overwhelmingly positive. We've had the most streams we've had on any song that we've ever released. Space Pimps, Eternal Boy, anything on Version of
Yeah.
Myself for the first week. And
Oh, sick. Okay.
yeah, I love the song. It's one of my favorite songs that we've ever done. So
And you found time to get a bit of pre-fest practice in as well around your busy schedule, or are you just winging it?
we are big on plugging and playing, but we have recently dabbled with trying to play with tracks, which we are practicing. As a matter of fact, I think our bass player is in my basement right now, setting up our tracks for our first practice with tracks on Monday night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very
I mean,
good.
that's such a common thing these days. I feel like,
It's just like
it's
it
the way
doesn't
to do
come.
it.
Yeah, but it like doesn't. How do I say this? Like we didn't come from that world, right? None of us
Right.
came from that world of like tracks. So it's like being able to be in a basement, plug in, tune your guitar, and ready to go. Like that to me is what it's all about. But we'll
Yeah.
see how it goes. We're probably gonna scrap it, but we'll see how it goes. I mean, we've got decent sponsors this year. I mean, we there's going to be activations on site from all the sponsors, which are going to be Monster is going to have a big footprint this year. We've got their Monster Tour Water, which is very Warped Tour. A lot of people come to Four Chord and they leave being like, this felt like Warped Tour did in like 2003. So
Yeah.
that kind of reinforces that. Because of the water. So we've got Monster as a sponsor, Smart Punk as a sponsor. We've got lots of alcohol on site, so don't worry. All of your liver needs will be tended to on site. We've got great nonprofits. That's what I really would like to talk about.
Sure.
We've got some really cool nonprofit sponsors. Punk Rock Saves Lives is going to be there, which is a very popular nonprofit for a plethora of reasons. And something that's really important to me, which thankfully we've incorporated over the years, is animal abuse and cruelty, which we have two nonprofits. One is one of our almost presenting type sponsors, which is Biggie's Bullies. Biggie's Bullies is a pit bull rescue in Western Pennsylvania that I've worked with Allie, the executive director, owner, starter, founder of Biggie's for years now, and they kind of have a bigger role this year for in a multiplicity of ways. They're doing a charity dunk tank, where we have a lot of the bands are going to be participating in the dunk tank, one of which is Something Corporate, who are going to participate in the dunk tank, which is going to be fun. We have another animal shelter called Animal Protectors, and this is a gut-wrenching story. But so a friend of mine works at or volunteers at this place, and she told me about this dog named Mia. Mia has been in the shelter for over 1,300 days. And has not gotten anybody to adopt her. So we're gonna do a big PSA at the festival to try to have her go viral and get her adopted. They'll be on site with a few of their shelter dogs, and we have another one called Hope for the Day that's going to be there. Which is again like a suicide prevention type nonprofit. PETA will be there. We got we're big on animals in my household, so.
Yeah, of course. I think anyone who listened to that original podcast with you and me that wouldn't be a surprise for them to hear. But that's awesome, man.
I wish we had speaking of our previous podcast, I wish we had an Indian food truck. I looked for one.
I was going to ask when you were mentioning the food trucks. Okay, that's too bad, but
maybe I'll just have my mom and dad come and just make us all food. That'd be great.
Yeah.